Hi, Nana.
Hi, Greta.
Nice to see
Here
you.
we are. It's good to see you. It's fall. It's windy. It's rainy. The nights are longer than the days. A new season is with us, and who knows what
And
that's going to bring.
and tell people where you live.
Ah, right. I happen to live in the very south of Sweden. I live in the south of Sweden. I am British, and I lived in Cambridge, Mass for many, many years, which is where I met Greta. And we've grown up together in a certain sense since
We
the
have,
late 80s.
yeah,
Yeah,
totally. In many
yeah.
ways, we are each other's mirror and
Yes.
views. And anyway, and I live in Gloucester, Massachusetts, so in the United States. So anyway, we just decided to start to have discussions across the pond, across the Atlantic, and just
Yes.
compare notes. So,
Yes.
so anyway, we talked about starting with a little bit of stillness. Do you want to do that, or
Sure.
just a moment?
Just brief.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
whoever watches this can just take a moment to be with us, and then we'll start. We both write poetry, and we'll start with
Yeah.
sharing some poetry, and it's
Yes.
conversation poetry. Okay, and we've had a discussion prior to this, and agree. Interesting, that it's these are still very intense times, but it also feels like the start of a new season, not just in terms of beginning of fall, but also some shifts occurring. And I know you had a poem that addressed this.
I do, which I will read in a moment, but I just want to add to what you're saying. It's such a mix of a time. I mean, what's going on in the planet and politically, environmentally, all across the board is very unstable. And I feel, in a sense, I was listening to David White the other day, and he was saying, as we mature, the thing that's happening right now is that the path that you're on is no path at all. You're having to make it up all the time. So it's the pathless path. And I felt that there was something right to that. And I do feel that, you know, on the one level, COVID is not with us anymore, but on another level, it really is with us. And it's with us, people getting sick, and it's with us because the residue of those years, can't just let them go, because we've been changed fundamentally, profoundly, radically changed. And any attempts apparently just to run off and redo what we used to do doesn't really seem to work, however attractive that might be.
And I would just
And
add that there's no real change without first stopping. And COVID has made us stop over the years, over the last
absolutely,
years. And who knew it would be 3 years, going on 3 years, you know?
absolutely.
So it's a very
And
intense time of reflection and meeting oneself in all kinds of new ways, and also of changing your life course. You know, all this quiet quitting, and you know the big you know, people leaving their workplaces and so forth, and becoming
yes,
entrepreneurs. It's a very interesting time. The big quit, that's what it is. So
it is.
yeah.
It's a very, it's very, very interesting. And I was also thinking that there is this voyage in later life into silence, and that's part of course, preparing for whatever is going to be next, but it's also part of completing where we've been And so I'm not ready to entirely come out of the silence yet. And we might talk about that a bit later. But I did have this poem called Start of the New Season, which seemed as though it might be the right poem for right now, because it is. Start of a new season. Autumn approaches, and the blackberry bush is awash with butterflies. The caterpillar season is over. An intense transformation in the cocoon has taken place. An intense transformation in the cocoon has taken place. And now the butterflies are needing rest to gather themselves and realize their new form. So too for me, I'm out of the cocoon, wings wet and trembling, not quite sure how to do this butterfly thing. How do I do this butterfly thing? Or where it might take me. All I know is that the journey to get here, though shattering, was essential. These are challenging times. The world hovers on a precipice. Doubtful situations and core wounds abound. It's easy to feel besieged and long for the cocoon. Yet, however tempting it may be, I cannot repeat the old without suffering. Life is imbued with mystery. What to do but be still. Deepen into the moment, and like those butterflies on the bramble, let the sun dry my wings and trust life's process as it unfolds.
Beautiful, Nanna. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and back to really beautiful. And so I think that we had mentioned or talked earlier about imaginal cells, and that
Yes.
Deepak Chopra once talked about, or had a period where he was talking about the imaginal cells, and how when the caterpillar first starts to turn into the butterfly, the caterpillar fights the cells. Its immune system fights them. So there is, this continual transformation you have to get good at. One has to get good at just sensing, oh, I'm turning into something else. I'm at a threshold. It's the alchemy. I'm becoming something else. So,
Yes.
and I really think in our time of stopping, I know I live alone, so I spend a lot of time, alone. And what I came in touch with in one of the poems that came out of me in that period was perfectionism. The part of me that's really caught by an inner judge or critic that keeps not good enough, not good enough. So I've been really, over the years, I've worked hard on that and releasing that. And it's a bit my father's voice. I mean, a bit, it is my father's voice, but it's also multi-generational. He suffered from it and my grandparents suffered from it. So I know that that's part of what I've uncovered. And like, as I come into more wholeness where there's a lot of positivity and a feeling of, yeah, don't sweat it. Come on. Life meets us all the time. Just roll with it. Even though at times, of course, I'm very angry. I'm in another classroom, but I thought I could read that poem. Is that all right?
I would love you to read that poem. And I feel like you've also said something here that's really, really important. And in the stopping, in the stillness, you don't get just breakthrough, you also get breakdown.
Yes.
And the core wound emerges. And I think it's why people often resist, because, oh, who wants to go there?
Yeah,
but actually,
exactly.
The butterfly will never emerge if it continues to always fight to remain a butterfly. I mean, a caterpillar. It just won't work. And caterpillar consciousness will not be helpful for the butterfly.
Small.
Too
Yeah,
small.
too small for what's required in this next chapter we're going in,
exactly.
that humanity's going into. But of course, individually, we're all in different stages of transition. No, absolutely.
Yes.
So, well, here's
So
me.
perfection, darling.
Here's me shedding perfectionism. So it's me coming out of the chrysalis, in one way. So it's called Dance On. I am not perfect, nor do I want to be. Show me something in nature that is perfect. A tree, a brook, a rock, a mountain. Perfectionism is an illusion, a shackle, a waste of precious time. In life, all stages are present simultaneously. This is what makes a thing glow with depth and aliveness. Perfectionism and too much idealism block the human spirit from perceiving and expressing beauty. I, for one, am done. I cast off the ball and chain. I choose to smile at my mistakes, my awkward pauses and stumbling moments, for they are indications of my humanness, my vulnerability and openness as I court mastery and delve into those things I hold most dear. And yes, I say yes to the perfectly imperfect gesture and flawed creative endeavor that reveals in the end unimaginable splendor. Yes, to life shapeshifting through 1,000 glorious moments of becoming, the chaos of birth, the decline of a flower, the worn stares, the distressed beams, the crack in my voice when tears surface, the starlight from a long since deceased star that continues to twinkle. All of these fleeting stages do not take away from the beauty of the thing, but add to its character. I rejoice in my fallible humanness, for isn't the most beautiful forest filled with fallen boughs and leaves that were torn off in the last storm? Yet still the forest is a marvel to behold, creating with its arching limbs a cathedral to the sun. Do not be perfect. Be proud of the continual alchemy of your spirit dance. Risk, fall, get up, master it, and then simply dance on.
That's beautiful. That says it. And that says that's the journey. It's the journey. And it's constantly falling into the cocoon and coming out and dancing on. And it's all okay. It's all equally important.
It is. Every
I have
stage,
a little poem. Sorry?
every stage, every stage is
Every
equally important. You know,
I
infant.
have a poem rather short that tallies a bit with what you've just read. Can I read it?
Oh, sure.
It's called Trouble. Leaning against the door jamb in the kitchen, looking out at the wildflowers in the meadow being pummeled and flattened by the wind, it came to me there is no life without its troubles, its sorrows, and its pain. There is no life without its troubles, its sorrows, and its pain. The invitation seems to be to welcome them as gateways when we can, to deepening awareness and compassion, welcome them as gateways to deepening awareness and compassion. The wind has stopped now, and the wildflowers are standing quietly, gently nodding to one another in the meadow. And I am reminded, for all the troubles, there is no life without its moments of pleasure and beauty too. There is no life without its moments of pleasure and beauty too.
Hmm. Beautiful. And the truth.
Thank you.
And the
Thank you. Yeah.
mm,
And it's all perfect, all of it.
exactly. I mean, if people could grasp that, I mean, as people grasp that, because in the spiritual journey, you're going to get that at some point. it's all perfect. It doesn't mean you're going to love every piece of it, but
No.
it's perfect and necessary. It's part of the composting the old, shedding, composting, and then being, here I am going into the new life. I'm risking, we're risking right now creating this program.
Exactly.
We're just, the world is in trouble. It's like, okay, we need everybody's voices. We need
We
everybody's
do.
voice.
And the peacefulness and stillness that everybody or anybody can find within themselves.
Exactly. Exactly. And on that note, there's a poem that I wanted to read. Can I
Peace.
uh it's called Sound That Note. And I just thought it's my ode to John Lewis, the great statesman who died a couple of years ago, but making good trouble. And but I thought, I really do feel that we need everybody's voices right now. Where it's time to flip the pyramid. We need everybody to participate in shaping the future of this planet, shaping the future of our nations, our communities, you know. So anyway, I'll just read this. It's called, again, Sound That Note, Ode to John Lewis. Sound that note, even though you are uncomfortable. Sound it as if your life and every other life form on earth depends on it, because they do. Sound that note, that vision, even if it belongs to future generations. Sound it with all your heart, because they will not make it without you. They depend on all of us to live our truth now. Sing it, dance it, write about it, shout it from podiums and broadcast it over the World Wide Web. Fashion it from from clay, from iron and steel. Turn it into home windmills and biogenerators, into new technology and design that liberates us from fossil fuel. Turn it into laws that are just and generous, protect human rights, and distribute wealth and resources fairly. Throw your arms around the sad and confused, the skeptics and the fearful, the angry and the vengeful. One day they will grow weary of denying and fighting that which is almost here. They too will come to understand the gravity of these times, sense the possibility of a new chapter on earth, and join in the chorus of love. Sound that note, be the road, the beacon, the welcoming hand. Cry your tears and gently release your fears. The children of tomorrow deserve your courage, your stamina, and faith. Dream out loud and never stop making noise. Make good trouble. For the future is yours because you dared to dream and question inequity, fear, and hate. You who have eyes that see and hearts that listen to the cries of the youth on our streets, to the whispers of the ancestors in the wind, to the howl of the vanishing wolf, to the tears of mothers and fathers in wartime. You who stop everything to pray for the trees groaning in the wildflowers, who see the dolphins swimming in a sea of trash and stop using plastic. You who hold signs in peaceful protest to egregious human rights violations. You who risk your lives to stand up for truth, who know where humanity must walk. Sound your note for the earth and for the children. Humanity will walk in peace and reverence one day because of a chorus of inspired rebels, healers, poets, mystics, social entrepreneurs, artists, and visionaries like you dared to sound their soul's note so loud that the barriers of denial, prejudice, and fear burst, and love and compassion poured in, followed by rivers of wisdom and insight. We will see change because an ocean of awakened souls patiently express kindness for those still bogged down in conditioning and fear, modeling a world based on generosity, reverence, and love, found the courage to shine their light amidst the tempest, trusted that it's darkest before the dawn.
Beautiful, Greta, and so true. I wonder, would you just excuse me for a minute? I'll be right back.
Sure, I think I'll put it on pause. How about that?
That's great. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Hi.
Uh,
We're back.
We're
So,
back.
we're
Yes.
back.
And speaking out is that's really, really important.
Oh, it
So
is.
thank
Oh,
yes.
Thank you. And you know, I mean that I was looking at the end of that poem thinking, oh, wait a minute, I just kind of need some more tweaking. But poems always need more tweaking. So it's just the name of the game. But I
Yeah.
just wanted to say that and see what you think, because this is conversations and poetry between Nana and Greta. That I think that there is, you know, a rise, as we have all seen, of the old tired story of authoritarianism, white supremacy, misogyny, nationalism, corruption, greed, land grabbing, you know, whatever, war and polarization. But I think of these as the tug of war dynamics of threshold times, where we're straddling very different paradigms and how difficult that is. And like my poem, it is often darkest before the dawn. So I just was wondering, you know, I mean, you know, before the dawning of a new era, of a new chapter, breakthrough often means this, you know, the expansion contraction, and then there's a releasing into, like we talked with the imaginal cells, into the new form. So anyway, I just thought I would say that, because it can be very discouraging right now, one crisis after another. One, you know, the war in Ukraine, I mean, COVID we already talked about, but the war in Ukraine, and then the polarization in the US is, you know, and the building of militias, and all over the world authoritarianism rising, and the squelching of human rights. And there is something else growing that's so beautiful, and sourced in freedom and human rights and reverence for the earth. So anyway.
And that those what you're talking about also can have its counterpart inside each one of us.
Exactly.
And so, you know, it's not just naming what's going on in the world out there, it's also naming what's going on in the world out here, because they reflect one another.
Absolutely.
And so, and they are difficult times. And some of it seems to be a bit like my trouble poem. So can you hold them both?
Exactly.
Can you stay present with all of it? Will you have the dark and the light?
Yes. And
Because if too much in just one seems to polarize the other, it's something about, you know, this
wholeness.
is equinox, night and day, equal.
Equal. And you know, I like to think of dark in the positive light of the womb, of gestation, of this
Exactly, me too.
deeper, as the deep feminine, as the all embracer. You know, it's within the dark is not just something evil. You know,
No,
the dark
exactly.
is
It's
the
not. It's necessary.
it's the unformed, that which is coming into expression. It needs time, and it needs deep listening from the masculine to bring it into form, or that, like you're saying, that deeper dialogue between the two elements, the two energies. Absolutely. But yeah,
Yes.
working with the inner tyrant, we have to all confront. If we want to change authoritarianism, we have to confront the inner tyrant, the perfectionist, the one who's too ideal, not, as we said, it's all perfect. Every stage has its perfection.
It's
Every
hard work, though, sometimes.
it's an invisible work, which makes me think of my short poem, The Dawning. Can I read that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
And you know, I wrote this years ago, but I think it's relevant. It's called The Dawning. Just as the dawning sun, with its magnificent show of crimson and apricot light, is but seen by a handful of fisher folk setting out for the daily catch, and late shift workers returning home after a long night's work, so too the self emerges into this world, resplendent and numinous, radiating uncommon beauty, wisdom, and peace, but is visible, really, to the very few who have managed to wake up. So there is that feeling when you're it's not broadcast on the nightly news, you know, that feeling of invisibility to those of us who are waking up, and waking up to another paradigm.
And I think there are two important points there, because
Good face, Nana.
I'm going to ignore it. It will ring a couple more times. It's because it's wanting to say that what we're talking about is very important.
Yes, there it is.
Message from the universe. This is important. It'll stop in a minute. Yeah, I think it's stopped now. Now. You see, if you're with life, you can't plan it all. It's all spontaneous.
You have to roll with it, man. You have to
Have
flow.
to roll. But what I thought, a couple of things that occurred to me that I thought were important. The invisible theme, because and the two levels. One of it is inner work is invisible. It's a full-time job.
It is.
But you don't have a product to show for it. You have a beautiful you to show for it, but there's no product. And so often it's not considered anything. Just like much of what the feminine does is not considered important because it has its invisibility, its invisible side to it.
Although when you connect it to someone who is shifted, you feel there is something different going on in the conversation. There's listening, there's mutuality, there's warmth, affection, kindness. Anyway.
That's exactly right. And so to those who are awakening, we recognize each other. But it's also can be true that we can be invisible to those who are not. And it's very, very important, particularly in the early stages, not to look for recognition from those who cannot give it to you because they're not ready, they're not there yet, or something.
Exactly.
So, that's why I love talking with you, because there's another one. Woo, where are you?
I have to say, that's so sweet. I was in Nova Scotia visiting Gampo Abbey, which is a Tibetan Buddhist center that Pema Chodron runs. And I went around this, I don't know what they're called, but it was like a wheel where all these slogans were, what it's called. And the final slogan was written on the wall, don't expect to be seen in your transformation, something like that.
Well, there's truth to that.
It's like you're not doing it to be seen. You're doing it to unfold something inside you that is a central self, is more essential to you.
And to have yourself, in a sense.
And to have yourself.
Yeah.
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 So is there another poem, my dear?
Yeah, maybe I'll just do one more poem, because this is part of the journey as well. Stillness.
And the deep feminine, absolutely.
Stillness, stopping. Stillness. On the deck outside the kitchen, the day overcast, hot, muggy, still. I realize as I sit here, my preferred path now is that of stillness. Oh, how I have longed for it after too many days of feeling besieged. A friend said of stillness, I feel like I'm treading water, getting nowhere. For me, stillness is an invitation to dive down, down, down into the deep for healing, creativity, connection, as well as a chance for rest, recuperation, spaciousness, and communion with existence. Meanwhile, a small breeze has arisen, rustling the leaves on the trees, fluffing my hair and cooling moist hands and brow. Thankfully, these movements do not disturb. They feel like a relief and help me deepen further into the stillness. And I realize it is possible to have motion, possible to have motion, inner or outer, in stillness, as long as I do not forgo that communion with the deep.
Beautiful, Nanna, and so much. I mean, there's a statistic in the US, which is, it was an article that came out not too long ago, in one of the online trades, which I forget which one, but it said that the 100, over 100 million people have been meditating in the
Mhm.
US, and
Mhm.
69% of them liked it. Now, that's a
Mhm.
pretty big number of meditators entering stillness.
It
So
is.
it is. And, when you enter stillness, you begin to enter the inner life and
Exactly.
mature. And again, this chrysalis theme of going into that deep stillness, like meditation, you know, brings up your immunity. There's statistics that say it stops violence in a 2 to 7 mile radius.
Hmm.
So, and certainly, or for a time, brings down violence and suicide. So,
Hmm.
you know, something going on there, tapping other layers of what it means to be a divine human being,
Yes, exactly.
going to other places. So your poem, oof, really speaks that. I was wondering if, maybe in wrapping it up, I could read Donna Markova's poem,
Hmm.
just as kind of a celebration. Um, I know you wanted me to sing a song. What do you prefer?
Both. Whatever suits your heart.
Well, I think that this poem is such a beautiful song, and maybe next time we meet, I'll sing. So,
Okay.
okay, because you know, we're this is our new form, so my practice. I'll see. Maybe I'll sing today. Anyway, it's called Donna Markova is a beautiful poet, and it's called "I Will Not Die," or it's an excerpt from her book "I Will Not Die an Unlived Life." It goes, I will not die an unlived life. I will not live in fear of falling or catching fire. I choose to inhabit my days, to allow my living to open me, to make me less afraid, more accessible, to loosen my heart until it becomes a wing, a torch, a promise. I choose to risk my significance, to live so that that which came to me as seed goes to the next as blossom, and that which came to me as blossom goes to the next as fruit. And that's what we're talking about,
Beautiful.
continual cycles
Yeah.
of transformation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the song that I was going to sing is about people changing, leaving the known. But I think next time we.
Next time, because this was a very beautiful way to end. You could almost read it again.
I was just feeling, and I screwed up the last line, so I wanted to.
So read it again,
Okay.
and then we will bid farewell.
All right. Good. So again, Donna Markova's poem. I will not die an unlived life. I will not live in fear of falling or catching fire. I choose to inhabit my days, to allow my living to open me, to make me less afraid, more accessible, to loosen my heart until it becomes a wing, a torch, a promise. I choose to risk my significance, to live so that that which came to me as seed goes to the next as blossom, and that which came to me as blossom goes on as fruit. So
Thank you.
there you have it.
There you have it. So be it.
Yes, so be it. Beautiful conversation, my beautiful friend.
Yes. So to be continued.
To be continued. And
Yes.
we'll be putting these up on YouTube under conversations with Nana and Greta.
Yeah.
Just look up Nana.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. All
Goodbye.
right. Bye
Lovely.
bye for now. Bye.
Bye.